All right, Broncos country, a mile high salute. Let's get it, man. I'm excited. Happy Friday, everybody. Hope everyone enjoyed their day. If you're in the Denver area, you basically had two seasons, man. Woke up to a blizzard, then it became spring and everything started melting. You got to love it. And guys, I'm super excited for today, man. We're going to talk about a lot of really fun stuff, man. Talking about the Broncos free agency as we are, just a couple weeks away from the negotiating period. I know it officially starts March 12th, but we already know March 10th is when you start to hear all the news. And according to Sean Payton and George Payton, they're going to be very, risk averse. They're going to be a little bit more strategic, a little bit more quiet, I guess. They use the word like a little more meticulous when it comes to the way that they're going to go about their free agency period. And it served them really well last year. But, last year the cap situation wasn't as good as it was this year. Obviously, we took the big brunt of the hit early for the Russell Wilson deal. And, I think that he expected for it to be a little bit more of an experimental season. Well, fast forward 365 days, guys, and what we got? We got a team that made the playoffs. We have a young star quarterback that we are ready to build around. So I always say, the big spenders and the teams that go out there in the first wave and they spend a lot of money, they're typically not the ones that win. They win the offseason, but they don't really get a good bang for their buck. But I think I got a good solution for you guys. And I will tell you, before we get into a lot of the free agents, and we're going to do it the whole spot track, and we're going to talk about, extending some guys and signing some others, I'm going to go a lot more aggressive than I would expect the Broncos and really probably want them to do. But the purpose of the exercise, guys, is to really get a good idea of just how many guys we can get if we wanted to. So I expect the Broncos to be a lot more aggressive this year than they were last year. And let's go Broncos country. I agree. We need to be more aggressive. And I expect for them to be, but I don't expect for them to be stupid and careless with the money that they make. And I think every one of these deals and every one of these players that I'm looking at the Broncos to bring in during free agency, we can justify that, in my opinion, based off of, what it is that I see. And where I think the Broncos can be while still being very smart, meticulous. And this doesn't mean they're going to be first wave guys or guys that are going to get big contracts. So, you know what, man, without further ado, let's get right into it. How you guys feeling about that? All right. So a lot of things here, guys, to talk about. So firstly, right now we're projected to have about 37.3 million in cap space. I don't know if that's taken into account like what they expected the old figures to be or the new ones. I'm assuming that, we're spending at 239 and we have 37 million. So they're anticipating the cap space to be, right around, 276. I think it's going to be a little bit higher. So I'd expect the Broncos to have closer to 40 million, probably $40 million of cap space. Doesn't really matter, even if the cap space comes really high, because it gets high for everyone. All the teams get more money. So it doesn't necessarily give us an advantage, except for in a few key areas, right? With the short deals or the ones that you want to put a lot of signing bonus that are longer terms. The signing bonus and the rich owners really help the most with 1-year deals, and they help the most with like 4, 5, 6-year deals that you sign guys to, just in case you're wondering. And we can break down why. But let's look at our roster, all right? A couple things that we're definitely not going to touch. We're not going to touch Ben Powers, and we're not going to touch Mike McGlinchey, right? Both these guys have a high cap hit for 2025. Mike McGlinchey here with – what's going on? Oops. Oh, God. All right. Now we're just doing some crazy stuff. So Mike McGlinchey with, 23.75 million. And then Ben Powers on here at 17.42. They did extensions that guaranteed them more money on the back end last year to free up some space. No reason to do that this year. I don't want to be constrained to them any more than we have to be after this year. If we want to continue with them, cool, we can, but there's no reason to do that now. The two guys that are really important to focus on, firstly, is going to be Zach Allen. Right? Zach Allen, we know, guys, he's only 28 years old. He's just hitting the prime, I think. He's a very, very good player, borderline all-pro defensive end. Unbelievable motor. I love the dude, and I do not want him to be a free agent next year in 2026. That is what I do not want. So what I'm going to look at doing is saying, you know what? Let's extend him. I don't want to convert the money. I want to give him a full-ass extension. We'll add 2 new years, and I think it'll be in the $20+ million range. So let's do 2 years, 44 million, and we'll say 12.5 million of that is going to be signing bonus. Now, what does that do? It extends one of our core players, somebody that I really love for this defensive line. while lowering the cap hit for this year about $8 million. Sign him there. Now, we're obviously going to do something with Courtland Sutton. And I don't know, man. I have a really weird feeling that it might not be as straightforward as a lot of people think. But, unless you're going to get a T. Higgins, which you're not because he's going to get franchise tagged, or you feel like you can trade for a bona fide wide receiver one, the Broncos are going to extend Courtland Sutton. And I think it's going to be a very similar type of extension, 2 years, the value of the deal on top of the $14 million. So this is the key here, right? You're already going to pay him. You're already owing him $14 million for this year. So you can maybe give him somewhere in the ballpark of, $32 million in new money. Oops. Over the course of those 2 years. And you'll give him a nice little signing bonus, maybe of $8.5 million. All right. I'm obviously just kind of throwing out monies, but I think a lot of these deals would actually make sense. And I think these are things that the Broncos in and of themselves can look at doing. I got some guys in the chat. Hold on. Kodiak. Shout out to Kodiak, man. If you guys aren't following Kodiak, he's got some great content. So go check out his podcast. Luckily, we don't have to pay the Jaguars tax anymore. But yeah, no shit, dude. No shit. And D-Rock is a staple in this community. What's going on, D-Rock? But yeah, that is true. I think what's nice, and Kodiak makes a really good point here. There's going to be a lot of guys that want to come here. So we'll break down and we'll go with exactly what that looks like. But when you're looking at extending Courtland Sutton, you could do something like that. You can give him $32 million in new money, extend him out, make him happy, give him a little signing bonus, and you're lowering his cap hit this year from 20.2 to 10.2 million bucks. So guys, just like that, simple as that, $55 million in new money. And you know what, to make it fun, because I think this would be smart by the Broncos. They're probably not going to do this, but I think it'd be really smart to look at a legitimate extension for Nick Bonitto. George Payton, Sean Payton, they've done an amazing job extending their guys, right? I love the deal for Quinn Miners. I love what they did for Jonathan Cooper. I love that they extended Patrick Surtain. Those are big boy moves, building around core players. Nick Bonitto is just starting to sniff his prime. And at just 26 years old, you give him a nice, massive, fat 5-year deal. It's going to be heavy, guys. Don't you get that twisted, but in the ballpark of probably $90 million, right? If you did 5 years, $90 million, that's going to be under $20 million a year. So it's probably not going to do it. So let's say, let's say we did 4 years at $90 million. We give him a nice little big signing bonus of 17.5. His cap hit ain't nothing. You're still saving money on the cap hit this year with a crazy contract like that. Let's make it 90. I think PS2 got 4 year, $96 million. Let's give him 96.5. It ain't my money. I ain't tripping. Boom. You sign him. Now you got you guys locked up. And even with those moves and signing Nick Bonitto to a fat contract that I think he's very deserving of, and I think it'll be good, smart money spent doing it early. Why go through the whole franchise tag and all that kind of stuff next year? You have $55.8 million to spend. And you can save some more on here, but we're not going to do that quite yet. What we're going to do is we're going to start tapping into some of these free agents. All right. And when you're talking about the free agents, I'm looking at it like, all right, let's take a look at some of the free agents. First and foremost, we're going to look at the Broncos roster first. If you guys didn't check out my video for DJ Jones yesterday, go take a look. I have no interest anymore. The more I thought about it and looked into it, I have no interest in bringing DJ Jones back. I do, however, have interest in bringing in one of these backup quarterbacks. Now, Zach Wilson's probably not going to want to come back because he could probably sniff another opportunity to play. And so you're going to have to kind of wait and see. I just don't see a situation where he wants to come back. Maybe he does, but I don't know. Jarrett Stidham, to be honest with you, I don't really know. I like him. I like the kind of I'm not going to lie. Like I do like the chemistry it seemed like these guys had, right? But I think he could probably get an upgrade. But let's go ahead, guys, and let's sign Jarrett Stidham to, I don't even think the market value contract makes sense. Let's sign him to a customized free agent. Let's say he likes to be here. You give him a 2-year deal, in the neighborhood of, I think Andy Dalton just signed a deal worth about, $8 million per, which is pretty wild. So give him a 2-year deal and $14,500,000. Signing bonus of $3 million. And I ain't tripping. No worries. It's probably going to be 1 year of that is guaranteed. But it seems like it's crazy money spent, but when you got a backup quarterback, someone that knows the system, someone that is good as a mentor, not just a mentor, but as, it's just they got good vibes in that room. Keep somebody like Jarrett Stidham. You know what you're going to get. It's not going to be anything special. I'd rather have Zach Wilson, but I'm good with Jarrett Stidham at that rate. Now, going through the rest of the list, I have no interest. I mean, Tremont Smith, sure, maybe. I don't really care too much about that. I guess, we'll see. Cody Barton is probably going to want to get more money. I'd like to bring him back, but at a backup, type of a deal where I don't want him to be the starter. If he needs to fill in, fine. So we're going to not sign him. Javonte, no. Riley Dixon, I do like the idea of bringing him back, signing him to a 2-year deal, maybe something in the ballpark of $7 million for a punter. You're making some good money, but he's worth it. He had a really good year, so I like the idea of bringing him back. And then I do like the idea of actually bringing back Justin Sternad, and here's the reasons. He's definitely not going to be somebody that I think is going to be a solution or the guy I want to as our inside linebacker moving forward. However, what he's proven is that if he needs to step in, he can do a pretty decent job, at least for a few games. But he's a really good special teams player. I think someone Darren Rizzi's going to love. So give me the market contract, 2 years, $6 million. That makes sense to me. I'm good with that. At a $2 million cap hit, it's nothing. And then, you can bring back Jaquan McMillan, who I like. You can, sign him to a vet minimum deal, maybe some sort of a transition tag. Same thing with Dondre Tillman. I'll give him a little bit more just because I think he's good. But McMillan, I like. I mean, I think he's a really good slot. Can we upgrade there? Sure. But you don't want to go into the draft with any kind of a, big time hole there, obviously. And then Dondre Tillman, I think he's someone that is really good, especially in the rotational role that he has. Otherwise, everyone else here, I'll let him test free agency. I ain't tripping. Let's get to the comments first before we get back into here. So we got our boy. I think Benito gets second tier edge money, $25+ million a year, probably $25 million a year if you're going to sign him this early. You can maybe get him a little bit cheaper because you're kind of getting ahead of it. But whatever it is, man, I mean, when you got a player that has that kind of potential and showed the pass rushing prowess that he does, if he balls out and has an even better season this year, which I think he will because he'll play more, that price is going to go up a lot. And then he says here, to clarify, not as much money as guys like Bosa and Watt, but $5 to $8 million a year lower than them. I don't really know what Bosa and Watt are getting. I guess we can look. Are they getting $25 million? I think they're getting closer to 30, right? I guess I can check real quick before we get moving. Yeah, he got a 5-year, $170 million. That's wild, man. That is a wild contract. 5 years, yeah, 175. So, I mean, that's well over $30 million a year. In that range. So, all right, let's keep this moving, and we'll get back. I'll get back here to the comments in a second. So, y'all know who my guy is in terms of free agency. I'll preface by saying I doubt the Broncos make this move because the more I think about it and kind of read through the tea leaves, I don't know if they really have much interest of revamping the wide receiver room as much as we think. But I mean, y'all already know. Give me some Chris Godwin, baby. I love that. His market value contract, they're giving it at 3 years, $67 million. I think it makes sense. And I don't see him being a wave one free agency type of a guy. I think there's going to be a lot of teams that might be concerned about the injury with him dislocating his ankle. And, the Bucs might not, be willing to pay at a certain amount, but other teams might. So you might be able to bring it down a little bit. 3 years, $67 million, $24 million signing bonus. It's probably going to be, more of a 2-year deal worth about $45 million. I'm good with that in terms of the guarantee. If you wanted to make it a 4-year deal, you probably could. But I love this move. And I made several videos about it, so check it out if you haven't. But Chris Godwin is the perfect fit for the type of receiver we need in terms of what he does, where he lines up, his versatility. I love it. If Sutton got hurt and you need him to step in as your wide receiver one, he could do it for a few games. He can dominate in the slot. He would be Bo Nix's best friend immediately, day one. So let's go ahead and sign him. And look, he's only 9.3 against the cap. So good with that. All right. Now, we obviously know that our biggest needs are going to be tight end and inside linebacker. Tight ends we can address in free agency. It's probably going to be more of a draft thing. But what we do know is that inside linebacker is probably our second biggest need and is something that we are going to be addressing in free agency, no doubt. So give me some Dre Greenlaw. A lot of talk about Nick Bolton. I'm kind of up and down on him. You sign Dre Greenlaw, then I'm super down to bring somebody like a Nick Bolton that can stop the run, and Dre Greenlaw can be your cover guy. But I don't think the market value is 2 years, $6 million. I'm going to go ahead and customize my own that I actually think it's going to be. I think you give him a 3-year deal in the neighborhood of $36 million. Seems heavy. Realistically, he's going to be a $12 to $15 million a year guy. I don't think that there's much doubt about it. You can give him you can entice him with a nice little signing bonus off the bat if you wanted to, $9.5 million, and you've got him year one at 4.3 for somebody like Dre Greenlaw. I think that's probably right. He might be, it might be somewhere probably closer actually to like $41 million. Let's just over promise here. Bang. And then now at this point, you're like, all right, cool. I love the idea of doubling up on it. Let's revamp the whole room and let's give ourselves Nick Bolton. And Nick Bolton, they're saying he's a 4-year, $49 million a year guy. Seems steep, but it's really the same value roughly as what you got Dre Greenlaw at, just over 11 million, basically $12 million, just over $12 million a year. Let's sign it. We're still cooking with gas right now in terms of salary cap space, because you got the ability to do that now. Ain't no doubt about it. So I love it. I'm all for it. Now, another area on this team that I would actually really like to get addressed in free agency is defensive line. And I'll tell you why. The reason is, and why I like Milton Williams. If you look at John Franklin Myers, he's going to be a free agent after the season, very similar to what DJ Jones was coming into the 2024 year. I don't know if they're going to do anything with the contract. They're probably going to wait to see how the draft and how free agency goes before they ultimately decide if they want to extend him or not. I think he's a really good player. Ain't no doubt about it. But you get someone like Milton Williams, he is your direct replacement for DJ Jones. He can play inside, really on all downs. If you want a Malcolm Roach to be your run stopper and you want to bring Milton Williams in during those times where they're rushing the passer, let me tell you guys, on third downs, obvious pass down situations, if Milton Williams and Zach Allen and John Franklin Myers are rushing the passer, that's an elite group of 5-tech, 3-tech type of defensive lineman rushing the passer. Milton Williams is elite. Had a video on him yesterday. Check it out. He is elite when it comes to rushing the passer from the defensive end position, over the A gap, the B gap, wherever. He's an absolute baller. He's young. And he can do everything that I think DJ Jones did, but he's also much better when it comes to him being as a pass rusher. And he's way younger. He's only going to be 26 years old this year. So they're saying his contract value is going to be 3 years, $36 million. Seems about right. Another $12 million per year guy, $12.24 million signing bonus. We'll go with what Spot Track says for the sake of this. So just to recap now, guys, we got, we had Chris Godwin signed. We got 2 stud inside linebackers in Nick Bolton and in Dre Greenlaw, and we have Milton Williams. I'll preface again, I don't think we're going to be nearly this aggressive, and I don't think we're going to be bringing that many household name guys. But the key to this whole exercise is that we easily could if we wanted to, and we're going to be able to free up more space. We're also going to keep this rolling, right? So Milton Williams, I love that sign. He would be one of, on my top wish list as well. I think right now in terms of free agents, it's Chris Godwin, Dre Greenlaw, and Milton Williams. Those are probably my top 3 when it comes to that. All right, so now what else we got? We know that we could upgrade potentially at safety. I've never been a big fan of spending a lot of money on safeties. I thought Brandon Jones was an amazing value, and he's a beast. I think PJ Locke is not as bad as people are saying that he is, but could we upgrade there? Sure. Talanoa Hufanga is one of my favorite guys, along with Trayvon Moehrig. Both guys, young, have shown crazy potential. Hufanga, a lot of injury concerns. Morig, not as much. I don't know how he necessarily gels. He seems like he's a little bit too similar of a player to what Brandon Jones is. But nonetheless, I love the idea of Hufanga. I think he's somebody that's going to be pretty cheap, relatively. I don't think this 3-year, $35 million thing is real. If it is, there's going to be only maybe 1 year or a little bit of that is actually going to be guaranteed given his injury history. There's going to be some injury clauses in there. But this guy was a first-team All-Pro just a couple seasons ago. And if he didn't have the injuries that he's gotten, he would maybe not even be a free agent. If he did, he'd be getting more money than Javon Holland is, no doubt. So, we look at him, we say, all right, you got Hufanga for 3 years, $3.5 million. Oh no, what's going on? And then you got Trayvon Morig. Where is he at? There he is. Trayvon Morig for 3 years, 47. Interesting. I'm taking Hufanga at the discounted price, and I'll bet on the upside. And if not, we always got PJ Locke potentially to be able to step right in. All right, cool. Now, next up, probably the most obvious, I think is almost bound to happen signing is Juwan Johnson. You got to revamp that room. You bring somebody that Sean Payton is familiar with. He's solid. He's not the solution, but he can certainly be a part of the solution. And again, you do not want to go into the draft with a very obvious need. Juwan Johnson helps that. You're not going to be desperate for a tight end. You can just let the board fall and pick your guy as it comes. So we signed Juwan Johnson there. Who else did I have here? I had a whole thing written down. Cool. And then obviously one of our other biggest needs is going to be running back. I've thought about it a lot. I've talked about Rico Dowdle. I like the idea of Rico Dowdle, but I kind of am talking myself into Aaron Jones a little bit more because I know he's not going to be a long-term commitment. But I also know he could be a really good mentor, really good person for a young running back or running backs really to learn from. I think he'll help Jaleel a lot. I think he'll help Estime in many ways. I think he'll help Blake Watson. And ultimately, he's going to help the rookie that we're going to draft. But he still showed last year that he's got some juice. He's a baller. And if he's in a running back by committee type of a role, he can really shine. I think he can make the most out of his opportunities. So I like that. Aaron Jones, sign him up. 1 year, $5.5 million deal. I don't know if it's necessarily going to be that. It's probably going to be more. But again, not really a big deal. It's probably going to be something like $6.5 million with incentives, right? But you give a $3 million signing bonus. And now his cap hit's going to be pretty low. You can give a $4 million one. Oh, his cap hit's higher. So you don't even have to give much of a signing bonus at all. $1.5 million incentive laden, 2.7 against the cap this year. I love the idea of bringing Aaron Jones. Now your team is super well-rounded. You've got a lot of studs. A couple guys I wanted to mention real quick. I know we're getting this is way too many free agents of big name guys, but I love the idea of Tommy Tremble. 2-year, $12 million contract. He's somebody that is cheap. He can be your dynamic blocking tight end, but he's super young and shown some pass catching ability. Pretty highly touted coming out of college. So I like that idea. I kind of like the idea of him more than Juwan Johnson, but I would like to have both. Now you got Juwan Johnson and Tommy Tremble. You can get rid of Troutman. You can get rid of Kroll and Atkins. You could basically redo the entire room and still bring in a rookie, and you're upgrading across the board. Tommy Tremble's probably better than it's not saying much, but he's probably better than any tight end we already have currently. So look into him if you haven't. He's a pretty intriguing prospect, actually, nonetheless. And then a couple of Saints guys, that you talk about. Peyton Turner is somebody that I think we're going to take a flyer on. You're talking a minimum contract. He was a former first-round pick. The last first-round pick, actually, Sean Payton made. Decimated with injuries, but a freak of an athlete. So take a chance on him. I don't see why the hell not. And then another Saints guy, I kind of brought it up in a group chat earlier, is Paulson Adebo. Here's the thing, guys. Yes, it's 2 years, $22 million. It's probably going to be more than that. I think he's worth signing or looking at a different cornerback option. We might be getting a little bit too confident in terms of the kind of cornerback that Riley Moss is. I think he's a stud. I think he's a bona fide CB2. But there's always the opportunities that he regresses. I think it's really good to bring in like legitimate competition. And you know what? When I think about it more and more, Riley Moss might be better suited to be a slot guy, or Paulson Adebo is somebody that could play in the slot. So bring in a veteran that's got outside, inside versatility. If Riley Moss keeps balling, you stick this veteran in the slot, then, you don't have to rely on Jaquan McMillan as much anymore. But you bring in good competition, it brings the best out in anybody. And, for a 2-year deal for Paulson Adebo, a young player who has shown a lot of flashes of playing really good, at that rate, I would like him. Anything more, not really. But let's just make it crazy and sign it. So, guys, when we're recapping, it's pretty wild. Like we brought back McMillan, we signed Payne Turner, Dondrea Tillman, Riley Dixon, Justin Sternad, Jared Stidham from our guys, and then we got Aaron Jones, Tommy Tremble, Drake Greenlaw, Juwan Johnson, Nick Bolton, Hufanga, Milton Williams, Paulson Adebo, and Chris Godwin. Listen, if this all happens, which it's like a 1% chance that it does, but we sign that many big name guys, I'm going to be juicing. I'm going to be bricked up, as they all say. That's going to be crazy. And what it does is that it helps you go into the draft with clearly no big needs. You could just take the best player available, right? But in addition to that, too, you can go back to the roster and say, all right, let's take a look. Now, we get Nick Bolton and Dre Greenlaw. You don't need Alex Singleton, right? Love the guy, but you don't need him. So bang, you save money. You saved $5 million by making that move, right? You bring in Hufanga and he's balling. Maybe you get somebody, another young safety in the draft. You might not need PJ Locke. Bang, you can release him, right? And now you saved yourself, an additional $3.5 million. And now we're cooking with gas. Now we're good to go, right? You bring in Paulson Adebo. You don't need Damari Mathis. You can release him, and you can save yourself another $3.2 million. And, you're sitting pretty at $25 million. You can fill in some guys here. You can take your draft class, and you're going to be sitting really pretty. And you didn't have to worry about messing with the contracts of McGlinchey or Ben Powers. You can let them play it out this year, and then you get a lot more flexibility in 2026, depending on what you want to do with those guys. We're eating a lot of Jonathan Cooper's contract this year, so that's good. And then, John Franklin Myers, like I said, how does the draft go? Maybe somebody like Walter Nolan drops to you, and you just say, you know what, JFM, maybe we can have you play it out and see how you perform on a contract year. Maybe not. Love the versatility. You're not overly tied. I don't feel like you've overspent for anybody. And listen, if you wanted to, Will Lutz is going to be a free agent next year. You can look at extending Will Lutz for a 2-year deal. He's been a really good kicker. I don't know, $8 million on the extension. Signing bonus. That's not, dude. That no signing bonus is gonna be like maybe $2 million signing bonus. And you're lowering his cap hit, and you don't got to worry about your kicker worrying about how he's performing going into a contract year. Bang. Back up to $27 million, and you're cooking with gas, man. You're good to go. So, kind of recapping it, you look at it like we could fill a lot of gaps in free agency, and it doesn't even have to be with these really big name guys. I think Dre Greenlaw and Nick Bolton are actually legitimately, I think we're going to be really aggressive in that particular room and probably sign 2 inside linebackers. I don't know if it'll be them 2, but I think one of them I'm confident that we'll get maybe like a Sherwood or, some other younger players that I think are really solid. But I'm curious what you guys think, man. Where are you guys at right now? I'm checking the comments in terms of if that was our free agency period or something resembling of that from a positional standpoint, how would y'all feel about it? Because going into the draft without a significant need is imperative. You never know what can happen in the draft. Maybe Tet McMillan falls. And you're like, boom, all right, screw it, let's take him. Why the hell not? Let's add talent there. Maybe Walter Nolan falls, and you're like, let's get an unbelievable, defensive lineman. Even though it might not be the biggest need, why not take him? Somebody like Jalen Walker's available, linebacker. Screw it, take him. You know what I mean? Malachi Starks falls to 20 at safety, and you want to upgrade there, and you want to bring in a really good young ball hawk. You can do that. It gives you the guys. You're not so desperate of, it has to be a tight end or it has to be a running back, because now you have guys that you feel at least good enough to be able to bring, and you can just build up the roster and continue to go that way. So I love it. I'm a big fan of that. And yeah, going into the draft, that would be amazing. So what I'm going to do tonight, guys, is I'm going to put together the hypothetical depth chart should this offseason have happened. And I'm going to do a live session tomorrow. We're going to say, okay, given this situation, we'll go into the draft and we'll just do a nice fun mock draft and talk about the differences in terms of, what your mindset and what your thinking is in the draft, when you fill all the holes in free agency versus if you didn't, and we'll see what ends up panning out better. It also gives you a lot of flexibility to be able to trade back, right? Which I'm a big proponent of this year. So appreciate all you guys in the comments, man. You guys have been great. Let me know if there's, what you guys think about the Broncos, or at least Mark's version of the Broncos free agency period. But I'm pumped. I want to know how y'all feel. That's all I got for y'all, man. So appreciate y'all tuning in. And don't forget to spend time with those you love the most, man. Enjoy y'all the weekend. Peace out.